think sometimes we need to know that there's a chain. Remember the chain we drove, the rights holder, the CMO, then the user. What the CMO would be doing in this case is not even trying to interfere with your relationship with Netflix, but trying to get money from the end users of Netflix. So it's not coming to tell you don't go to Netflix. But how many people are going to broadcast? It's different from if I am watching Netflix in my bedroom. I'm using for private use, right? The moment I make, if this TV was now connected to Netflix and we are all watching, Golden Tulip is actually making commercial gain of that. And Golden Tulip should then pay the CMO for that broadcast. That has nothing to do with your relationship. You get that there are different aspects of the chain. So it's not that at every turn the CMO is there to say, wah, don't go to that person. They have their mandate, and it's not that in the whole process of creating, the CMO is there in your ear. It's at different stages. Nearly, thank you. Then Ruba, I like that in the end the spirit is that they would like to pay. And like I like that many of the people who have the lawyer from Kingdom TV, Katongole, Ruba, I like that everyone was actually reiterating what we were saying, right? It's things we already acknowledge. And one of the biggest pain points I said is awareness that the gap is not only on that side, even the users, even the CMOs. So there's that thing. And at least the good thing is you acknowledge that we want to pay. Just tell us, maybe threaten us less, and explain to us how everything works. And for me, that's even enough, that a person is willing. And in my journey, Mr. Katongole, before I even get to your point, I don't work at URSB. I work for Max Advocates. I don't work at URSB. So in this journey, we see that even a person saying, okay, I'm willing, just explain to me, is going to get us somewhere. But I've been there because I know the inside game that a person says, explain to me, but at the core, they actually don't mean to do what? To pay. It's just mind games of, just tell me. Like I told you, I defeated people before by telling them, bring your whole list, bring it here. In truth, I knew that there were some things that needed to be paid for, but you're using it to say, he who alleges must prove. You're saying I'm playing, produce. You understand? So, but the holy grail here is that there's willingness. For me, that's enough. What if I pay the CMO and the author comes back? If that CMO has given you an undertaking, remember we said it's voluntary membership, right? And the right holder still has a right to negotiate independently. But if a CMO gives you an undertaking that this is the license I've given you, because a license, it's not just like a paper that you write and go away, right? There's usually terms, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, etc. To the extent that you fall within the terms of the license, you should be indemnified. As the face of infringement, of course, if a person complains, they'll say, Capital Radio is playing my song, right? Because you're the face of the infringement. Capital should then come and say, yeah, because so-and-so gave me the what? The right. And even if it's a suit, you third party them. In law, you introduce them to the suit and say, Gwe, Sasura senteza. Now, you told me that this is the extent to which this license goes, and I gave you the money for that. To the extent that you underbilled, to the extent that, story for another day, but that is that at that point. Then there was an issue of Mr. Senkuge saying, Banage, this 1.8, what a biggie deal. Surely, what a biggie deal. We would like that the law increased either the currency points or increase the value of the currency point, because the currency point is 20,000, or stated that the currency points are more. The good news is all these things we do are both criminal and civil. What does that mean? You'll be criminally liable, and nothing stops the right holder from also taking you to civil court. And while in criminal there's that cap of 10 currency points, of those ridiculous fees where Miriam would rather imprison you. In civil, how much did Angela Katarumba get? For playing the song for the purpose for which she intended. you know. Moreover, it was 10 seconds of the song and telling people to go green, which is what she was saying in the song. You get what I mean? So there's always the civil angle for which you can be taken on to greater lengths. And we've seen continually, there's a lady who sued Opportunity Bank for use of her torso. People, this case rates me so much. They didn't use her face. A combination of 4 images made a billboard. There was a background from a different image, a head from a different image, a torso from a different image, and the lower part from a different image. The torso sued, and the torso got money. She said she was identifiable, and they had breached her image rights and her performing and so many other rights. So people, don't worry about these currency points, both as a right holder, but worry about the currency points as a user, because a person can take you on in civil court, which for great lengths that you can never complete. Mr. Katongole mentioned things that will go to UCC, but also mentioned that do these people have a copyright for this content? I think we are mixing issues here. Whatever was for UCC does not necessarily mean copyright. So that's maybe a UCC thing of you're not allowed to broadcast certain content. The fact that they're doing it doesn't mean that they have a copyright license. Then the issue that kept coming up from the Ruba group is tell people to register their copyright, then they can enforce. Copyright is inherent on creation. It is the only type of intellectual property where you don't need to register to have it. The moment you create a literary, artistic, or scientific work that's original, meaning you've expended independent effort, and you fixed it in some permanent to semi-permanent form. In other words, sagenze ku beach nenkuba ku musenyu aka picture that the wave came and took. Or I didn't draw in oil form, something that's nearly permanent that another person can perceive. The moment I qualify that it's original, I've fixed it, and it's either literary, artistic, or scientific. Scientific is computer programs, software, databases, etc. I have copyright. Certificates are purely for evidence, and actually in many other countries they are called recorders. You're just recording, and a copyright certificate can even be taken down. How? If Emma Carlos comes and says, "Oh, you're registering a copyright echo, but I have proof to show that my work existed before his," they call it back. Kalibala will call it back, rip your certificate apart, and chase you away, because it's not the certificate that gives you the right. So people, for all our peace and sanity, you do not need a certificate to be a copyright owner. The day you create your copyright that's original and you fixed, you have the right. And copyright does not look at quality. So even this song we hear that we made you, or we made you better, indeed, in terms of growing of the sector, broadcasters play a big role. But the nature of copyright, it does not matter whether Kafero's song didn't have a video and yours has a video, whether the other one bajikwatira ku simu, whether this one used a 2 for the artist, whether I used 2B and the other person used 6B. It does not matter. Quality doesn't matter. Your work, as long as it's original and fixed, certificate is for evidence and commercialization. Because if you go to Ruba and say, "This is my song," Ruba might ask you, "Manya antia." What if another person comes? It's just for things like that, to make it easy to commercialize, but it's not a requirement that you get a certificate, then you become a copyright owner. CMOs and accountability. That is true. The problem we are seeing today, and Mr. Katongole, maybe just to say, I'm not here in UPRS capacity. It's just that I mentioned that I sit on the UPRS, but I'm here in my capacity as a legal expert. The history of CMOs has been bad. That's the truth. The regulator and all stakeholders, plus you people, the users, we are all trying to make it better. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know that saying, we just destroy everything. Let's consider today as day one. When I say today, not today. But the problem when we started UPRS reconstruction, at COVID, at Ebichi, so there will be people who said they've not even collected. Many people have been given demand notes and have not paid. Brings me to your point. The people who don't pay, will they forever remain like that? Nedda, you always remain in arrears, and you run the risk of being sued for copyright infringement because you have no license and you're using. And copyright, as other intellectual property rights, has what we call continuing infringement. You know, most torts or crimes against, not crimes, offenses against people that are not criminal in nature have limitations in time. Breach of contract has a time limit. Land matters have a time limit, that a person can't be in threat of litigation for the rest of their life. In land law, if you don't enforce your right in 12 years, potea. So there are those things. But intellectual property has what we call continuing infringement. Nti 20 years later, bagenda kuchimako bakugambe na yo omanyi nti you've kept doing this thing and it's 20 years later. So it's not a cover. It's just that now, like Ruba is saying, Nab is saying, there are negotiations. So it might not make sense for CMOs or even users now start saying, tugenda kubalopa, namwe tubasuwinze. Now then it defeats the purpose. But let's give the CMOs a chance. In terms of the current thing, I hear it a lot that, mutulagebe mwali mwasasula. The current people are new, so to speak, and we are all trying to make it better. Nti? Some of them actually suffered the injustices of not being paid. It's just that we are trying to make it better. So it can't be that, bano babinyo. Is a CMO a one-stop shop? Roger asked. I think I pretty much answered that question, that to the extent that they guarantee you that this is what we are giving you, then you can, at that point you have a contract with them. You can hold them liable to that. But we have to bear in mind the voluntary aspect of these things. TikTok, just as a legal person who sits on the other side, people like TikTok, Disney, I don't know who, what's that other person that's not TikTok? Reels, Instagram Reels, people like that are now moving to situations where they are giving you content on their sites that they've already negotiated payment for. So that you're not able to, for example, make a song, that there are set songs that you can use. I think we are seeing it commonly with TikTok, that you hear very many things done using the same song because chances are that that's the song they've got an authorization for. And to the extent that you now upload a song that's out of things that they're calling from their library, then you'll be infringing on your own and you can be taken on. Yeah, what we should not forget is voluntary membership of CMOs and the fact that there's history, like we said in the challenges, there's a bad history, but let's give ourselves a chance to do better. And I like that, don't use the stick very much, because the stick has not worked for long. Let's use the carrot, and where the carrot fails, we poke with the stick. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'm scared of COVID, real scared. Not that I'm a survivor. Thank you so much. Maybe partly let me end, as we say in standard communication, let me start with what Grace has ended with, that copyright goes after technology. That is the truth. So we have also been wondering about this TikTok and social media, but now Grace has brought that angle. These people are held liable. It's just that our market is so weak. Our enforcement is weak. Everything is weak. But I can tell you, whatever you do in Uganda, you cannot do in a strong jurisdiction. And I got that example when I went to Korea in 2016. I was shocked. When I left here in Uganda, I could go to YouTube and then look at all these movies. There were Hollywood movies there. They are Korean. There is Korean content on YouTube. It was free. They're free for me as long as I have data there. When I went to Korea, I was shocked. I turned on my phone to say, let me go to YouTube. Now I'm in my room. I don't speak Korean. Let me go. First of all, it's all in Korean. But even if you feed in content, even Ugandan content, you will not get it there. I was so shocked. So I was thinking that maybe they have an issue with their internet. But you know, Korea is the most internet-savvy country in the world, so they have everything, but they had blocked. So one thing I'm telling you is that these things are possible, okay? You know this saying, Uganda, bichi bichi, and then you make your mind so weak, we make our mind so weak, then we settle for less, then we dehumanize ourselves with consuming substandard content, which we are not paying very little money, we run away from paying it. So it's not right. Other people are doing better. That's why they have moved on. TikTok, you can see now, is ahead of us. And we can also humanize ourselves and be realistic by doing what we are supposed to do. But I've been, throughout the questions, I was excited and I was laughing. The comment from the gentleman from KTV and also from Ruba. You know, the same force, same notion, same belief. I believe the people in Ruba go back in their offices and they continue developing arguments against, arguments trying to find out a reason why this CM was, because you can see the passion, you can see the passion and the pain, why we asked you URSB, right, did it? And it's the same thing, when we met Julius, he raised the same thing, the gentleman has raised, but you can see the passion, which I'm short of saying the anger, really, the anger.
Sorry, you can't say anger.
Let me use passion.
No. We shall not allow you to demean Ruba and people who are that it is anger. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. I understand it. Please do not demean people. Ruba is a strong association. You can't say we have anger everywhere. It is very, very wrong. You work for government. Do not demean your biggest clients at URSB. We are your clients, but please...
It's fine. I'm recalling that. I've said it with due respect. I apologize, and I'm saying it...
Say anger. We are not angry people.
I'm withdrawing, and I've withdrawn it, and I've apologized.
Withdraw that and speak. These are very important people. You can't demean a whole association which represents 200 radio stations that we use anger. Go and do a background check. Who are the owners? Please. Okay,
I've withdrawn it, sir. I hope you can allow me to withdraw it, have I? Julius, it's fine. Julius, it's fine, sir. It's fine.
These radios are owned by MPs.
Yes.
Ministers.
Yes.
Prime ministers. Prime ministers own this.
And the idea is supposed to know that law.
So we are getting
Okay. It is okay, Julius, allow me to communicate, but I want to withdraw. That's why I was using change of language, and I'm not going to be defensive about that.
That is okay.
I'm not going to be defensive about that. But I also want to, and I don't know whether also the gentleman from KTV will get me on the wrong side, because I think I quoted him, he said, stop threatening us. But what did he say? I request, I demand, the language that is coming in, And I saw that this was the kind of attitude, really, when I went to KTV to talk, squeezing in the corner and the way we've engaged. But one thing I need to tell you, especially now this one, let me respond to Ruba, to this. When we discuss with Julius, there are certain things you have to ask yourselves. Yes, you've talked about the ecosystem. The ecosystem. Also, our ecosystem is about paying for content. Okay? Our ecosystems, I think, are different. While the ecosystem of Ruba rotates around developing talent, ours is about protecting content and paying for it. So my hope and belief is that our sides do not clash over that. Now, the other thing I was telling you is that you have to ask yourself certain questions. Do you outsource or use content? That is only the basic. Okay? Do you outsource content? Is the content yours? Do you outsource it? Okay, those are the questions you have to, when you come in contact with content, you ask, I'm going to broadcast this content. Is it my content? Before you challenge systems into showing you this and showing you that, the issue is that, is it your content? When I remember that letter very well, because I received it, that letter was with me, and actually we responded the way we responded. I think Grace has given a bit of it. We do not have, and this one, let me say it, gentlemen from Ruba, we do not have a list of these rights holders with their works. We don't have. Because one, it's a deep copyright technicality. They don't have to register. That one we've said it. So we don't have that database. If you come to us and tell me, give me the Ugandan musicians that have registered with you and their content, that is the reason why we responded to it the way we responded to it, and we received that letter and we gave you a response. We told you, go and deal with your PRS because they have a database for their members. Okay? And I want to leave it at that. I want to leave it at that because that's what it is. So if you write to us as URSB all the time asking us for these people, and their works, we shall ever refer to you to the CMO. Okay?
Can you also withdraw that statement? UPRS, they don't have a list of their members.
Anyway, the board member is here. That one I will not speak for UPRS, but I think the board member is here. But that is the frankness we have to speak. Now, the other thing, again, the gentleman, the lawyer from KTV has said, and maybe Ruba, is that we're a bit hard-hitting. But we've always told you, and for me, we all have legal backgrounds, but for me, when I'm making my presentation, usually I stay away from the law because I want to explain things in their conceptual way. You know, it's a concept. When we tell you that CMOs are supposed to pay for royalties, I don't want to start quoting the laws and imposing them on you, because even you, all of us, we might fail to understand where these are coming from. And the laws can always be amended. But my approach has always been standardized to explain concepts. Why do we have this and why did this come into the law? But again, when some people find me hard-hitting, I've explained that at the end of it all, my hands are tied. I don't have any other way of saying this apart from saying it as frankly as it is. The law is arrogant. It is straight on, it hits. If we say that if we find you infringing, we are going to arrest you, we are going to investigate you, it's not me speaking. My job will be to prosecute. What the judge says is what, but my job is to enforce the law as it is. So that's the reason why I'm asking you, please go and read the law, because so that we do not seem arrogant and hard-hitting. I need you to have a discussion with me based on the law, a legal argument. I said this is what it is, and you counter it. If I'm a lawyer and I'm speaking to a non-lawyer, the non-lawyer is going to pick out those, you know, why you hard-hitting, why you arrogant, where does this come from, but it's just a legal position. So that is what I'm saying, that you just have to know where the basis of this is. I've showed you President Museveni in my first presentation, signing the policy, and we have a Copyright Act, and we also have regulations. And that's why the institution of URSB was created. And I've always advised people that if there is any issue with the law, we are now going through legal reforms. We are open to come and say, you know what, we are going to reform this position of the law because it doesn't work for us. But as long as the law is there and the institutions are there, then they are going to do their work. Okay, are we okay with that? Okay, now there were other issues that were raised. For instance, but I think I've responded to Ruba. The relationship with the broadcasters, and then the writing, the records, and we encourage you to write to us all the time, please. Writing is very important. Writing is very important. It formalizes us. We shall write, and that is the only way we can respond. Okay, that's the way you can respond. We just have to write. Then okay, then there was the gentleman, the artist from, you talked about collecting royalties from Netflix, and you dealing with Netflix. Personally, I think Grace has responded to that. I think, and that is, really I have nothing useful to say. Let the CMOs and let the local IP system here deal with Netflix. Let us deal with Netflix. You can deal with Netflix personally, but I want to show you. What is unfortunate is that these foreign players know how these things work. They really know how the things work. Our thinking is that they come into a market that maybe they find that a market is not being enforced, or the market is not playing according to the rules. And probably they take advantage, but they actually know how it works. Netflix knows. It has a checklist. It knows when it goes into the market, it has to acquire content, it has to do this and this and this, and they have to satisfy them. My thinking is that when they come into a market and somehow they don't find that that is being enforced, or maybe they think the law acts differently, that is what they do. The other thing I'm cautioning you, and this one is going to you as a person who creates content, don't buy into the thing of we are helping you. We have always discussed that issue, and we shall remain discussing it. These people are doing business. Let Netflix do business, let the broadcasters do business. Let them acquire content through a business means, okay? So if you are weak and you are small, you have no negotiating power with a big player like that, not even in Uganda here, okay? The issue of coming back door and saying, let me put my content to these broadcasters and then they will do what, you really don't have the power to have a negotiation with them. That is the reason why you need bigger entities like the members' representation, the members' CMOs to do that for you. You will go into negotiations privately because our law allows you to do that. You will negotiate a license with them. They will discuss what to give you. But eventually you will see that it is not going to benefit you in the long run. They know it and they will exploit. Okay, for them, they have all the platforms to do that. So that's why we're advising you that as far as our systems are concerned, you should apply the available entities that are here. You should work with them. Okay? But that said, it does not stop you from pursuing your right under the law that you can negotiate with Netflix individually. Okay? Am I clear, sir? I'm not clear?
Yeah.
What I'm...
Because there's very many facets of distribution film. If you go, for example, if I have a movie and I have to take it to Netflix, I go as a producer or my executive producer members, then we directly negotiate with them through an aggregator or an entertainment lawyer or something like that. So at what point does CMO come in to do that? Because initially I go alone and I get the deal done and the film is on, and then at what point do I have to, when I'm going to them, do I have to come and get the collective management society along with me?
Okay, the CMO will deal with Netflix apart from you, especially if you're not a member, if you have not registered yourself as a member of the CMO. Okay? You will deal individually with Netflix. CMO will represent its members. You understand? So in other words, your relationship with this broadcaster is not antagonized. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I'm speaking as a producer, but there are producer members who director would go to Netflix, and they're not members of the CMO.
They will deal with Netflix. The CMO will deal with Netflix on behalf of its members.
Yeah.
Yes.
And third-party users. Remember, like I explained before, there will be people, like you said, they are facets in this creation journey. Sometimes you even need help in the actual production and so many things. So it's not that the CMO, otherwise the CMO is going to have to deal with the musician in the studio. You understand? Which it doesn't follow. So there will be situations where it's relevant for the CMO and where it's not relevant. Like I explained, if your movie then ends up at Golden Tulip in their lobby, then Netflix take care of that with you. You understand? That's when, if you're a member of a CMO, it helps that the CMO now comes to Golden Tulip and says, you're broadcasting my member's movie on your TV in your lobby. There's a royalty for broadcasting to that. That in itself does not affect your transaction with the back end. If you try to distill the whole life cycle here today, you're not going to be able to.
Okay, granted, I can be a member of the CMO,
Yeah.
but given the history that I mentioned of lack of transparency, I have a person who has gone ahead and negotiated with Netflix on my behalf, and when the money comes back, I don't know what happens in between there. Is the CMO happen to be a middleman who is unnecessary in my own kind of agreement?
No, it's okay. I think here I just need to create a caution that I think this is, like I've said, this is deeper IP and copyright. Again, using this space to put it clearly might not be, and it might be so technical, but what we can say is that, first of all, it's important that you become a member of the CMO. I think in a nutshell, Grace has said that you have more to lose. There are some ways where your works will be used. Grace is a subscriber to Netflix. She can watch your programs privately, okay? And that is the deal that you negotiated. But when Golden Tulip hosts Netflix here, that is a different system of consumption. And there you are not going to deal with the different users. You understand, under the same circumstances. So here we are almost 100 people and we are watching Netflix. That is not what you paid for. What you paid for was Grace using that Netflix privately. Okay? So the CMO will come to Golden Tulip and it will acquire those licenses and issue the license. And therefore it will give you money for the use of your works, even if you did not deal with them directly when you were going to Netflix. Is it a bit clear? Maybe a bit confusing. Yes, you wanted to say something, Chaz?
Yeah.
Chaz.
I run a CMO, and the thing is, for every work, there are many rights to that work. Some of the rights, you license them directly with the concerned user. Some of the rights, you have to give them to a CMO to manage for you. So those rights that the CMO manages are the ones where, for instance, concerning Netflix as a platform, their rights you will directly license them to whatever administer for you, or rights that you directly administer. Then there are rights that the CMO will be able to administer for you, both locally within Uganda and abroad. So don't worry about what the CMO does in respect to Netflix. They know what rights they are dealing with, and they are the same rights that the CMO in Kenya or wherever will administer for you in respect of the reciprocal agreements. So by you not being a member of the CMO, you are denying yourself extra income from those other rights, and both locally, income earned for you locally, but also from other countries. So I just wanted to say that.
So eventually you just have to be part of a CMO because you have more to lose. You have more to lose by not being a member of a CMO. That is the truth. It's the bottom line. Okay, and then there was an issue of distribution of royalties. So now the broadcasters have given a feedback that we are giving money, okay, for those who are compliant, we are giving money to the CMOs, money is being collected, but musicians are still coming to us and raising issues that the money, they are not receiving money. Now, if a person has licensed a CMO, and I can assure you broadcasters, eventually you're going to work with the CMOs because it will not be to your advantage and your fairness to work with. All of us here are musicians, okay? All of us are content creators. It cannot happen that we are all going to go to Bishop Chiganda's television and negotiate licenses, because all of us have to issue licenses. And then we negotiate tariffs, okay, for the license and then the royalty. Because all of us are going to be paid differently. That is the point we have been insisting. So it becomes cumbersome. That is the reason why we are saying that this CMO issue, buy into it, because it will make business easy and seamless. Okay? Now, when you become a member of the CMO, the royalties that you earn are based on the use of your content. Okay? And now that's why we are telling you broadcasters that look at this whole thing as a business, that you access content that is quality. You come in contact with the content distributors and you tell them, just give us audio content to play. That's it. And then we give you your royalties and you're out of the business. We are just all doing business. There are no passions of saying, you know what, I'm here. And because if that is done, that is the only way you're going to avoid these people coming to you and asking that you play their music and they are not giving you royalties. Because the only thing is that you can do is to hold the CMO accountable. That is the only thing. If we get a musician like who, let's give an example. I want to give an example of Palazzo, who was I think he had the biggest hits from 2020 up to 2022. I think he was the top musician there. At least I kept on the downloads and then the listenership. So he comes to a radio like, Sanyu, Rogers Radio, and he raises an issue that is not being paid. But Rogers is paying to a CMO, which CMO this gentleman is a member of. Okay? Because Rogers Radio did not make a personal licensing agreement with him. They made that agreement with the CMO. The CMO licenses them. The distributor gives them the content, so they are free to play the content. That's the thing, you have the freedom to play the content. It takes away the pressure and the harassment. The only thing these people have to go is to go to the CMO and ask for the payments. All right? And then that's where we come in, the issues that you are raised, the issues to do with transparency, the issues that you raise with transparency of the CMOs and how they are transforming. But the issue of whether these people are being paid or not is left to the CMO. As long as you pay your tariff and you pay your royalty, you are free to use that content. As long as this person is a member. Okay, is that clear? Because someone raised, I do not expect anyone to come to my radio door and start asking me for money for the content I've played. I've already played to their members' organization. I've already paid there. And I'm licensed to use their content. That is how smooth the business can be and seamless. Okay, I think Katongole, I don't know whether I'm answering your question. Because even you yourself, you'll tell the individual artist, please go and be a member of the CMO. Go and be the member of the CMO, because I'm going to get 1.5 million here, give it to the CMO, also give them the royalty for the year. I'm done with that. Unless the tariff is renegotiated, but I'm done with that. Don't harass me. Whether you go to court and sue, whether you go to where, I'm already protected. That is the way it works. Okay, let me proceed again with the questions, some of them that were answered. Kakande. Okay, we finish. Is a gentleman, the lawyer from KTV. And someone was, and again, insisted that know how the broadcasters are making money. We know how the broadcasters are making money. The broadcasters recently went to Parliament and they say that the cost of doing business is high. And we who are in the content economy and pursuing content and enforcement, we were watching those proceedings. We know you went there, NAB went there. And we're saying, what are you going to do with the content? What are you going to do with the content? Because at the end of it all, the content remains. You are still exploiting the content. So maybe the whole basket has to go with it. And I wish when you went there to make a case that the cost of doing business is high, also content was involved in those discussions. Okay, so that we can have a general overview over it. Yeah, because regardless of how much the cost of doing business is high, the issue of the content will remain. We are still going to pursue it. We are still going to pursue the issue of paying for content after use. Okay, so the cost is high. The way you are doing businesses, you might be having a way you are doing business, but as long as on your radios or on your televisions there is outsourced content, whether it's gospel content, because when I was on Bishop's radio, television, I know the issue that was there. Our born again people give us content, we use content, they are free, we give us licenses. But I also want to challenge born again stations, whether you do not use foreign gospel content, whether this content is musical, is audio, or they are sermons from preachers, whether you get licenses for using that content. Because the societies from which you are getting this content are fully commercialized. I'm telling you, there is no way I can listen to a Churchill song and you assume that because they are praising God and Jesus in there, so it's free. That doesn't work with these people. These are commercial societies. So they create content, whether it's praising God or what, but they expect to be paid. That is the reason why you want this evolution to take place. That let's look at content in a business sense. You acquire content, you pay, you use it, and then you pay.
You want a response?
In questions. I want to end with Julius's question, because I know this question is bothering so much. It bothers so much, and I think the broadcasters can pay attention to it. The question of whether a CMO's license is blanket. And by blanket, we mean that they give you a license, so you are authorized to use content globally, regardless, and you are not stopped. The answer is no. That is the answer. It's no. The presumption of the CMO is that it's licensing you because it has members, and you are using their members' content. Okay? Are we moving along, Julius? So the issue is, suppose you use my content, I still have rights to enforce against you. One, if I'm not a member of that CMO, or two, if you've not used the content as I authorize the CMO to use that content. In other words, it's not a blanket fee that because UPRS has come and you've paid it 1.8 million, therefore you have a right to use content all over the world. No. And that is the reason why for us in copyright here, we are working on what we call reciprocals. Okay, in our market here. That people are going to give us licenses here to be able to enforce on their own content. I think Miriam did explain that we are finding challenges with that people are going to give us authority here through what we call reciprocal agreements, which are a practice in copyright, so that the CMOs can have full authority to go after that content. Because the issue is that, yes, you acquire content, maybe it's I don't know, downloadable, wherever it is. But if for instance, UFMI gives you a license 1.8, then will you be showing Hollywood movies for which it has not been licensed to pursue? The answer is no. These people still have a right to come after you. okay, for unlawful and unauthorized use of their content. That's the reason why we are saying that when we engage the broadcasters, there are two things they told us. They told us we either get rights from people directly, or we get rights from the creators of the content here. The issue is authorization. And whether you have a license there, if you do not have a license and you are exploiting content, the government of Uganda, like I showed you in my presentation, we shall still come to you and we shall still ask you to provide for a license. And it's regardless, sometimes the broadcasters even ask us a question, where do we get this license? Where do you get the licenses from? If the licenses are not there, please deal with people who are ready to give you licenses to exploit their content. Because it's an issue of rights. It's an issue of rights. Some people don't want their content to be broadcast on televisions. They don't even want their content to be used commercially. And maybe some people have given certain players exclusive right to use their content. So I'm Radio Sanyu, and I was given probably the right to use the exclusive, someone exclusively licensed me to use whose music, for instance. Navio. I can use Navio, I can use Palazzo. Let's say Palazzo now is the hitting musician, or Daddy Andre, as Molondo said, Daddy Andre. And so we are saying that Daddy Andre with his agents made a contract with Sanyu so that they can use his content exclusively. Are we aware of this contract? So there are reasons why people have not given you licenses to exploit content. And therefore you cannot take it upon yourself and say because it's on the internet or I got it here or whatever source it is, I downloaded it so let me be able to put it on my broadcast. Okay? So you see, that is what I was explaining from the beginning, that it's very unfortunate that maybe we are still short of supporting the system. Suppose Radio 1 is being charged for a royalty, okay, but it could be above and beyond. It's excessive. And it would be against what, for us as a country, charge. Of course, now, because the broadcasters disclose to us that they are dealing with these people directly, they are going to work with the terms that have been laid by those people. First of all, the tariff for the license, they are going to state it in dollars, you pay it. And for us, when we are coming to enforce, we should be able to see that tariff, that license. What authority do you have to play Chaka Chaka's music? The license is here. And then we are also paying these tariffs, these royalties to them. And that's final. That is what we are trying to do, sir. Sir, that's what we are trying to do. That's why I told you from the beginning that we have this aspect of reciprocity. We need to accept one thing. We have challenges, okay? But the challenges do not stop us from being compliant. And Julius, that's a very good point you've brought. Just as you've seen it is the way I wanted you to see it. That the connections are there. We're working with our Aripo blog to see that we need to get the reciprocal agreements for all the content that is in the world. Starting with the Asians and the Koreans whose content is on TV so that it can give us the authority to actually enforce and eventually end up in prosecution.
Okay,
Steve, that's it.
So just one minute, Steve. On the issue of licenses, a license is a contract. It has terms. So whatever you've signed with the CMO, you have to read the terms, read the fine print. Reciprocal agreements are what we've been explaining, that UPRS agrees with PRS UK. Enforce for me there, enforce for you here. It doesn't mean that each collecting society here has agreements with every collecting society in the world. So when they give you a license, it is restricted to those people with whom they have agreements. I think that's clear, right? Even for the content here, it's restricted to the members or whatever so you look at the terms, and that's why I said that your license that you're going to get from the CMO won't just be a receipt of payment, but there'll actually be some sort of terms for you to know that my 1.8 zikoma wano, it goes this far, and therefore you're able to also negotiate and say, but if it goes this far, then maybe it should be 500,000, not 1.8. You know it. And if it goes that far, then maybe it should be 5 million and not 1.8. That's that. Then I just want to be clear on the difference between the list that you desire to see from URSB and the list at UPRS. Bishop Chinda, if you go to the UPRS website right now, in fact, type on your phone right now, UPRS members, UPRS members. There's a list.
Do you want me to say something?
Just 1 minute. No, as in at the end. At the end. Not yet, because you're going to say before I finish my thought. So there's a difference. For example, I'm not sure about the list that Ruba wanted to see from URSB. But as an independent practitioner, I know that if you wrote to the registrar, for example, URSB is also the registrar of trademarks, right? If you want to see a register of registered trademarks, the registrar might have that list. Because, actually, let's say patents, because that's the type of right you can't have anyway without getting a registration, because even trademark you can have in use. A patent, they'll have a list of all granted patents. So there, if you wrote to URSB and said, give me a list of all patents, they will have it. But like we said, copyright is not such right. So URSB can't give you a list of copyright, registered copyright. I've seen that the confusion usually is when they tell people go and register with a CMO, they think that that registration is for URSB. That registration with a CMO is to just say, I'm a member of this collecting society, and these are my works. And I think that's why, and I'm not interfering in whichever method you want to approach that's between you and your regulator. That's why URSB might be telling you, go to UPRS, because UPRS is going to be the only body with a list of members, not a list of works, because a list of works can't exist, because any work, remember we said, no matter the quality or any work is protected in copyright. So if you are a content owner, even without a certificate, you are a copyright owner. So there can never be a list in the world, not just in Uganda. There's no list of registered copyright anywhere in the world, because any work created, as long as it's original and fixed, qualifies for protection in copyright. So you can never find a list of works in the world, because people actually seldom register. They rarely register. So you won't find the list of works. However, any collecting society you go to should be able to show you a list of its members, not of its works, but of its members. So UPRS on their website has, I think, about seven something.
Members list, Steve, members list, the next down.
It's about 7,213 entries. So as from the last AGM at UPRS, they agreed as members, I'm not a member of UPRS, that people will come, clean up their registration, update their works, the ones who died will be found out, etc., etc. But as it is, you can't say that UPRS is not fulfilling its mandate under the law. The law requires UPRS to make available the Copyright Act, regulations, its memorandum and articles of association, plus a list of its members. And as of today, it says it's 7,200 and something. 7,213 entries. The question of whether that's clean data is another one, but at least there's some sort of list as required by law. Should not have that.
That registration of intellectual property.
No, so Uganda Registration Services Bureau is a register of intellectual property. Intellectual property has trademarks, copyrights, patents. There are very many types. Copyright is one of the types of intellectual property. Copyright is yours the moment you create. You don't need to register. It's not registration that gives you a right, which is different from a patent. A patent is a solution to an innovation or invention that solves a problem. For example, the person who invented a safety pin, they needed to temporarily hold something together without permanently sticking. Or the person that invented that stick glue paper, those temporary stick, they're usually orange, green, they are light colored. It was a solution that I need to temporarily stick something somewhere and be able to remove it. People who invented the phone. So patents are both complex and also simple. So patents in their nature must be granted by law. So the registrar of trademarks and copyrights and patents, who is Uganda Registration Services Bureau, will be able to give you a list of all registered patents, because that's the only way you get a patent in the law. However, copyright, the registrar might only, and that's on payment of a fee to search, might only be able to tell you the people who have voluntarily recorded their copyright. That does not mean that everyone who has voluntarily recorded their copyright is a member of a CMO. You get the difference? Because membership in a CMO is not mandatory. Actually, I am volunteering. Invite me to Ruba. I'll give you a free training on copyright and rights, registrations, for free, as long as my diary allows, because we will not be able to finish it today. So URSB, or any registrar in the world, cannot give you a list of copyright, because the moment you create your own, you will only register for your own reasons, that I want to have proof, I want to commercialize, and that registration is not equal to registration with a CMO. Registration with a CMO, membership in a CMO, is a different issue altogether. And as a user, you're mandated to interface with a CMO, which has these members. So as Ruba, if you're interfacing with music rights, the CMO is UPRS, which is saying that its current register stands at 7,213. So that's the list that we'll be able to see. So there's a difference between URSB, what you need to see from URSB, and what you need to see from UPRS. Yes, Bishop. Mukulu maliriza.
Anyway, thank you very much. I actually want to appreciate both the UCC and URSB, the organizers of this event. Thank you for all the information you have so far laid to us. However, I'd like to say that there could be a need in this country, before you over-engage us as broadcasters, why don't you also consider to engage the artists themselves? Because for us who are out there and who interface with them on a daily basis, it's like you are advocating for people who are not interested at all. And this is the truth. All these broadcasters can tell you. They are not interested until you educate them. Mr. Kalibara, you can see your passion on copyright in this nation. Even the last time we met, I saw it. You feel bad that people's content are used without being remunerated. But they don't have that same thinking. They are the one that knocks doors of these broadcasters, begging on their knees, please play my music. Actually, as we were talking, I thought, maybe to make this happen, why don't you also advise us to charge them on the other side? Then the money we charge them, we collect it and we give it to the CMOs. It works better because they come to us begging that we should help them and play their music. They even corrupt our music cedulars, and we don't like it because it brings imbalance on the station. Some artists, they don't even get an opportunity for their music to be played because they are these one who come, no, here is my kamane, and play my music. Now this is a real double standard. Okay? You are telling us we should pay for people who are not interested. They are the one that come to us and corrupt our people for their music to be played. What are we going to do? You need to advise us. One, my piece of advice would be, why don't you also engage them and educate them than educating us all the time?
Bishop, actually, the good news is, at least in my presentation, I actually said that even the owners need awareness. And also the further good news is we've had engagements. I think Mr. Batambuze can testify. Mukulu Senkubuge, you attended one of those. So we've actually started, and I agree.
But Senkubuge is an owner of he runs the station. He knows how they go to him and beg.
No, but in that engagement, he came as a rights holder. So what I'm saying is, indeed, it's true that there are people, and it's just that it's a system. It's because the system is broken, and with history, people know abantu weba manya then jakutunda. It's just that the system is broken. So the sensitization is not only for you. it's for everybody, and we shall get there.
Actually,
we are
the
positive.
the last time we went to Gura, I thought you were going to the big man to buy all the music so that you can be the one to sell it to us.
Okay, Bishop, let me answer also Bishop's question. Bishop, ekibuuzo ky'obuuza kirungi, and I think we have it on record. I think it was last financial year. We had a virtual engagement with creators of content, musical works. And I think it's part of our outputs. Era kakati, even by broadcasters, we put you into considerations. We put you as creators of content and consumers of content. Before this year ends, before June, tugenda having engagements, never creators as per our CMOs, the ones who are in literature and the ones who are in film and music. I think I've had a discussion with Mr. Tiava. We've had a discussion with book presenters. So the thing is that for us, our awareness and sensitization, which I told you that URSB leads, is multi-pronged. We are looking at all because we know how challenging this is. And it's not only challenging here, but we also face certain challenges. For instance, if you ask us to break down on the enforcement, for instance, of the Act, the first thing that I always tell people legally is that the Act exists. Whether Kalibala Bamujemu or is hard hitting or is arrogant, there will be another officer. Grace will come and take it up. 1,000 Ugandans are there waiting to take our jobs, to do exactly what we are doing. So the thing is not really about what URSB is doing. It's about maybe the legal framework itself. The last time I was with stakeholders, I told them maybe you can just raise and say, let the copyright system be deleted out of our country and we do something else, because it's giving us headache. Okay? So, because as long as the law is there and the policy is there, as I've shown you, you know that copyright is being discussed both at WIPO, but also at African Union. That is the most important thing. African Union. Our ministers are there and giving accountabilities on copyright. Why has copyright become political? It is because for us as Africans, it is very easy to create. It is not like the patents Grace told you about, which require technology. For me to make that camera, it will require me almost 50 years to get the engineers to make that camera and protect a patent. Even to create a patent that preserves water, it will require time. Many times I'll have to get a license. But to sing, to create art, to do anything, that is an economy that people are looking at. And they're asking us a question, why isn't it taking off? So while we interface with users and creators of content, and maybe we get a response, we know that also the people who are pushing us to do something are also pushing us with force. Okay? Our CEO is going to be accountable to Parliament. She's going to go to Parliament. She's going to go to Cabinet. She's going to go to the Attorney General. They are going to ask her, why isn't copyright happening? Okay? Our ministers are going to go to WIPO. They are going to ask them to give the latest updates on copyright. What's happening in copyright? Because one thing they know that Uganda creates content. So you see the difficult situation in which we are. And we've also always told you that even if, for instance, me as an artist, you know, in artists, it's accepted in music especially, I can buy airtime to be promoted. Okay, that is a fact. And for me, that is the way I want to look at it. First of all, I need to advise broadcasters that desist from taking content from anyone. Like people, it seems people are pleading. Why are they pleading? And what do you feel? What do you feel for them? Do you want to promote them? Do you feel sorry for them?
You got it right.
You feel sorry for them?
They don't look at this thing the way you're looking at it. They were looking at it. For them, the reason why they come to us, they want us to help them promote their content, become fame, because out of fame, they know how to make their money.
And make commerce. And make commerce. It is the same thing.
Yeah, after being fame, they know they will make money from the weddings, from the concerts, but they use us to expose their music so that they become fame. This is something that you need to deal with.
It's a whole system. Anyway, that is the reason. I think I'm going to return the microphone to Mr. Tom Simi. I don't have the rights to give you the microphone, but let me
ladies
return
and
it to
gentlemen, please allow us to end it at this note. We will never finish this conversation. It's a long one. It's like Philip promises, there will be more engagements. Yes, there will be more engagements at which some of these questions will be answered. And we also have online audiences who keep asking questions. and making the addition. So if we start, we'd never finish. But before we go off, I would like to hand over the microphone to Mr. Medi Kagwa of UCC. There was something about UCC for him to also give us his final input before we move to Gilbert Agaba of URSB and we close it.
Thank you, Stephen. I would like to thank all stakeholders for the candid conversation and sharing. Two things come out. One, we agree there is still a need for more sensitization and sharing of information. I think now the next layer of engagement should be, we need to look at the actual agreements that the CMOs give to the broadcasters, such that they understand the 1.8 or the 2.8, how far it takes them. Because I'm happy to note that there's willingness to comply. Now the issue is how far and complied with. That's what needs to be understood now. Bwana Katongole Omutongole, the same law that applied to Capital and Beat is the same law that applies to all radio stations. And actually, I want to inform you now that those perpetrators of those crimes have even amplified it a bit, where they choose areas where they hijack your frequencies. They choose your popular programs and close off on an area like Beat FM is in Kamocha. You will be transmitting, for example, Capital Gang, and in Lugazi, for a radius of around 5 kilometers, they are putting adverts in your frequency. So we're investigating and punishing the culprits. The only difference is that we cannot publicly come out to put out all the culprits, because the investigation is ongoing. It is a big racket. It's just small as you think that we're just getting them off radio. Because this goes about, and I don't want you to call them herbalists. The herbalists, all they require to do is have their drugs approved by Uganda National Drug Authority. They've done nothing wrong. Okay? What we stopped were con men who were conning and suspecting members of the public. I do not want to say Balogo. I do not want us to turn it into an issue of faith. Okay? We went after con men that were conning and frauding and suspecting members of the public. We do not go after Balogo, herbalists, etc. All we require from the herbalists is that their products should be approved for advertising and use by the National Drug Authority as required by law. Mr. Tiaba mentioned about the 70% local content quota being put in policy. Mr. Tiaba, there is a whole regulation, the Uganda Communications Commission Content Regulations of 2019, that contains 70% local content quota for all TVs in Uganda. However, there seems to be a misconception between 70% local content quota and 70% local films. Let us understand the local content includes films, dramas, news, political programs, sports, children's, etc. All those are our stakeholders. It does not interpret to 70% film. So, like I said, this is an issue of information sharing. We are willing to engage and share more information on how this can be done. But I want to thank you for all this information. My brother, Philip, we have had this conversation a lot. I think, personally, we need to start engaging these people, all stakeholders, on the commercialization of works that works for everyone. Everyone is willing to pay. That is what I've taken away. The issue is, most likely after balancing the books, some people feel there's not enough money to pay. Others feel the 1.8 is low. Others feel if I pay 1.85, I broadcast whatever is available across the globe. So I think the next conversation when we're engaging these people is we need to put for them the different avenues of commercialization and how it fits into the whole value chain. If we're able to drive that point home, I'm sure the compliance levels for both of us would increase highly. Because everyone is willing to pay. They just haven't understood clearly when they pay, what rights have they been given. We have also been receiving those complaints, and this is information for Council Grace that sits on the UPRS board. These people pay the money, but what is given is a one-page document that doesn't specify the terms and conditions. That is why I think it is important if we could share a draft template for purposes of education, that this is what the terms and conditions, of course there will be a few tweaks here and there, but this is what it should contain. So people understand that when I pay 1.85, I'm allowed to explore the rights from point A to point D, not Z. But I thank all the stakeholders for the wonderful conversation, and please don't tire when we call you for such engagements, because the learning never stops and the technology keeps evolving. We will need to think of new ways to explore the new distribution mechanisms. Because for me, from where I sit as a regulator of communication services, the money that we are striving for from broadcasters is peanuts compared to the money that exists out there digitally. So that's why I say the conversation needs to move to how do we commercialize all the content available to start reaping from all the available digital platforms available. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Medikakwa.
I'm not going to greet you because you've not eaten lunch. If I say good afternoon, some of you are going to look down. Yeah? But first of all, I thank you for being here up to this hour. I think it's about 2:30. So let's start by clapping for ourselves for really sustaining the effort. Hasn't it been useful? Yes, these things sometimes serve as a therapy session. During COVID, we held engagements, but people don't feel they've expressed or communicated effectively until they see you. And they say you or this, and they feel that you've heard them. So these sensitizations are going to continue because we want to hear you. We're a public office, and our job is to serve you. We are not owners of copyright as URSB. We do not own any copyright. It is the users out there that are putting a demand on us to ensure that you who are using this work need to remunerate them for this kind of work. I would like to thank our panelists, Nyanja, Grace, and Nabatanzi. Clap for them. They did yes, they did an excellent job. And on a special note, to appreciate Grace, who has offered to train people from Ruba on copyright. And as you heard, the questions you might have might be technical, or they require more time for explanation. So please engage her, and I will task my colleague Nyanja to ensure that he is there to support her as we speak about issues that concern you. Again, my office is open. I didn't really understand what the problem is, because you're expressing willingness to comply, but you are not complying. So what's the issue? Please come and see me, and let me find out what the issue is, and we'll resolve it and ensure that those who are creating the work are benefiting from it. One thing you should take from here, the issues of copyright, just simplify them to the simple basics. That there is an author, That's the person who owns the copyright. And there is a user. That's the person who exercises any of the given rights of the author of copyright. If you do that, if you are a user for any of those rights, you need to pay or get authorization from this user. You can pay the author directly or you can pay the CMO. And if there is a relationship established between the author and you, the user, it must be in writing. It cannot be assumed. It cannot be implied. It must be in writing. Number two, in law, there are specific terms that must be in that contract. Okay? They must be there, because if they are not there, the contract, the author can say, it's not going to work for me, and it will end there. The law allows that. This goes to what, let me just clarify this for once. You see, if an owner of copyright comes to you and says, please play my music, and even pays you, they have not by that action transferred their copyright to you. The moment you put that work online, okay, you are liable to pay because you're exercising one of the given rights of the author. So you must get a contract from him of what you're allowed to do with this work. I have, all of you know, you go to a shop, they give you free soda. Does that mean you own now the plant that manufactures the soda? Is that what it means? All of us promote our businesses because it is through notoriety that we gain a following, that our customers can know about us and access us. So it is you, the broadcasters, who are being taken advantage of. You are not taking advantage of the users, because the CMO will come. They will say, you played Bugembe's song. And you'll say, well, he paid me. You say, it doesn't matter. Where is the contract that you have a right to exploit this work in the way you are doing it? So, if there's a relationship between the author and the user, it must be in writing. That's a requirement of the law, not my requirement. If there is nothing, everything you are saying is just your own views or your own opinion. Okay? So remember that write these things and look at the law, look at what terms must be there. There must be consideration, the value exchange, there must be territory covered, the rights given to you. If you, Mnet, for example, buys Makutano Junction to broadcast, and for you, do you think if you buy a license from Mnet, do you have a right to make CDs and sell them? Do you have that right? But Mnet will say, well, we have the right to broadcast. So for you, can you just make copies and say, I paid Mnet to have their decoder in my house? No. Always remember that every use must be authorized by the author. Otherwise, you pay for it. At whatever level you fall, a broadcaster, a rebroadcaster, and a commercial user, everyone must pay. We are having these sessions because users come to us. You don't see them here, most of them, but they come to us. And I think you had stories of people who are performers, but they are really suffering out there. And for us, we're enjoying their work. We are benefiting from this work. Why don't we want to pay? Yes, everyone is squeezed, but the use of the work is a cost on the business. It's not an additional or unnecessary expense. It is a cost of doing business. And you must look at it that way. When you are putting salaries, put the cost of copyright. It's important. I would also like to thank our partners at UCC. All of you are here because of UCC. If you had received a letter from on URSB, Some of you are going to say, those people, we don't like them. After all, what are they going? They're not going to stop me from broadcasting. But we want to thank you, Sisi. When we held a meeting and we expressed our need that we need to jointly crack the whip, they have done the bidding, and we are all here. But they are not forcing you here. But they want you to understand the issues we are all facing on our side, see how we look at things. Let us also understand how you look at these issues and find common ground. That's why I say, come to my office if you have an issue. Let's really understand what the problem is and redress it. And let's pay the users. Coming to the CMOs, we thank them for participating. I don't know why UPRS is not here. She said she's not here on behalf of UPRS. Okay, but we need representatives from all the CMOs. CMOs, they're expected to be transparent, yes? Okay, thank you for that. So we require all of them to be transparent. That's why she said, who are the members? Please show it on the website. Now, transparency, as someone said, you need the full information. But ask what you want to know. Some people are looking for loopholes. They are getting information to find something to go around it. I'm not saying that they will not give information. If you need any information from the CMO, you will get it. That one we can assure you. The other aspect we expect of these CMOs is accountability. If they are receiving the money. Those of you who were last AGM at UPRS, URO, UFMI, they showed you their books of accounts. It's important to know where the money they are collecting from you is going. And the third issue is governance. That touches how these organizations are run. But let's not go looking backwards. Let's look at the future. They've come from very far. The law was passed in 2006. Some of you just learned it a few years ago. 2006, we appeared before the president, and he asked us that, what have you been doing since 2006? And it was on live TV. He didn't do it in his office. No. He said, what have you been doing since 2006? He said, what? 2006? What have you been doing? Now do we account? When we show a list of 17 broadcasters and there are 50, when we show a few bars and hotels that are complying when others are not, how do you expect us also to account? It is our responsibility to ensure that the law is complied with. So we want to put CMOs to task to be able to comply with those three requirements: transparency, accountability, and good governance. If there is an issue there, please do engage us on that. The other issue is on law reform. We are going to work on amendment of the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act to improve it a bit. There are many areas we're going to address, including issues of things like fines that people think are just scandalous. We're going to address those, and we're going to engage you again. So go look at it, look at the areas we need to redress, and communicate and say, I need this covered. I know when you talk to NCF, they tell you about the private copy levy, very passionate about that issue. When you talk about CMOs, people are concerned about governance and tariffs, those kinds of issues. Let's get your views, and we will include them in the amendment. Finally, sensitization doesn't end. That's one I've learned. You know, you can't. Today we are talking to Musime, tomorrow someone else comes in his chair, and he starts from zero. Says, I don't know anything about copyright. And you can't say, well, I told. You have to continuously engage. So when we call on you, please come. This is where we find answers. At the very least, we know what we are doing wrong. Some of you are persuaded and wedded to your ideas. They are wrong. But this is a platform where we can address them. And we'll continue these engagements with you. If you have a specific need, just write and say, we as this organization, film whatever association, I don't know what, books association, We need help in understanding issues of copyright, and we'll do. If you have issues about how to develop contracts, we will also support you to develop some template contracts to use. So we are open, we are ready to serve you. Let me end by appreciating my colleagues from URSB. I'll ask them to stand up. Where are they? Yes. Another chance. Yes. These hands are for you. I know when you go to greater offices, they are going to be much bigger hands. But they've done an excellent job. Yes. All right. It seems you've reached big offices. So thank you for that. They've really done an excellent work. And also our partners at MultiChoice. They are also passionate about issues of copyright. They didn't know what to do, and they felt that the questions they wanted answered could be the needs for other broadcasters. And I believe that they've also gained something from this session. Once again, to appreciate you for making the time. We will continue. Please feel free to engage us. Now you know us. It's not only Nyanja, most of you deal with Nyanja, but my Uganda is a disaster, but I can understand. You can come and say, you know, and I will listen. I will respond also in my particular Uganda, but we will understand each other. And we find common ground and we move forward. The opportunity is there. Grace highlighted the opportunity out there, and it's for all of us. If we don't take advantage of it, then who will? Don't wait until your child gets to that area and you're like, I wish I had invested in this industry. I wish I had done something to support this industry. This is the time. Enforcement will also continue. This is not a threat, it's a promise. We don't threaten because we are not interested in threatening people, but we are promising you because that's our mandate, that this is what we are going to keep doing. So enforcement will also continue. But we are not interested in cracking the whip. We're interested in you complying and our users benefit. In the end, everything we do is for the owner of copyright. We want them to benefit. At whatever level you own IP, we want you to benefit from your IP. It must mean something to you. So let's look at the end and then look at, we'll see how we can intervene, each and every one of us. Thank you once again. I hope lunch is still warm, but are we going for lunch? Okay. Thank you, and the Lord bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Gaba. I hope your words give Ruba a huge assurance. I've been informed lunch is ready. We're going to go down to the lower floor on the right. You'll meet our teams that will give you coupons. But on behalf of everybody and the partners, we thank you for coming and for making the time, and we'll see you another time. Have a good day.
Motherland, Uganda. She is amongst the fastest growing entrepreneurial economies in the world, perhaps first in Africa. With a list of population growth close to 48.5 million people currently, out of the above mentioned percentage, 50% commonly draws under informal sector, which promotes different professionalism, skilled labor, and technically